Hello Eorzeans, I'm Lakeel Bravestone and welcome back to another episode of Remnants of a Realm. In the previous episode we took a look back at Camp Bloodshore and its ethereal gates, as well as the mostly retconned airship landing ramps from 1.0. But, as several sharp-eyed viewers have pointed out, there's one landing that's not retconned. This ramp right here survived the reboot and now serves as a poacher camp. Make sure to swing on down to gawk at this strange relic from 1.0. Keep in mind though, this is the only ramp left. Anyway, today we're leaving the Black Shroud and entering the hot desert region of Thanalan. We're headed north to Camp Bluefog. Camp Bluefog was located almost directly west of Cutter's Cry and served as a regular Aetheryte camp in the region. The camp had 3 ethereal gate connections: Cutter's Pass to the northwest, Sea of Spires to the northeast, and Hidden Gorge to the west. To get to Camp Bluefog from central Thanalan, you had to traverse through the Scales, an infamously annoying path that split into 4 different narrow paths leading into 2 different locations, one of which being Cutter's Cry. Just to make it all so much more fun, high-level enemies had a tendency to roam around here, killing curious adventurers that were unprepared for the hell that awaited them. The camp was home to several NPCs like Gate Warden Ydailani, great name dude, Quartermaster Gerlach, and a Battle Warden. There were also 2 merchants, Yelois and Montorganes. The camp was located so far north it also had to be guarded by immortal flame soldiers Private Stark, Hankselin, and Grieve. The reason why this was necessary was because Garlemald controlled large parts of Mordona, and Bluefog was Thanalan's first line of defense in the event Garlemald crossed into Ul'dah territory. More on that later. Although the Bluefog area didn't have a lot of monster variety, it did have a lot of high-level ones. Northern Thanalan was a mostly desolate area, not really having much going on, and as I mentioned in the previous episode, that usually means loads of high-level monsters. Speaking of unremarkable, one of Bluefog's ethereal gates, despite its name, Sea of Spires, was one of those unremarkable areas. With the exception of the somewhat interesting layout, this location didn't contain any landmarks or points of interest. It was actually a rather annoying area, as it consisted of these narrow paths that followed these mountains around. Hidden Gorge was pretty similar to the Sea of Spires in that it didn't really contain much of interest. But that wasn't the intention at all for this place. You see, Hidden Gorge was intended to be the location of what we can only presume to be a high-level dungeon location. Hidden on the border between Cutter's Pass and Hidden Gorge, these things stuck out of the ground. Look familiar? Yeah, well, that's because it's the exact same entrance as the one used for the Sand Caves. The dungeon was called Hidden Gorge Burrow, and of course we'll be visiting that one in a Secrets of a Realm episode. Wink. Now here's a slight digression. Thanalan reminds me of mining. Obviously, that's where the mining guild is. It specifically reminds me of the mining quest chain Little Saboteurs. The quest chain starts off in Ul'dah as Lynette, the guild receptionist, informs you that the twin potatoes Pop Cooley and Ceruleum have assembled a group of adventurers and set out for Gridania. Pop Cooley and Ceruleum is looking for another Lalafell, Fafajon. And yes, this quest contains a parley section. My favorite. The mining quests were actually really interesting, we might cover them one day. Anyway, the reason I'm bringing this quest up is because it had a very special soundtrack. I know, right? Soundtrack for a quest. At one point in the quest, music starts to play, and this was unique to this quest. The name of the track was From the Heart, and sounded like this. The last ethereal gate, Cutter's Pass, was an important location. Maze-like in design, this area was the last place you'd see before entering Mordona. As such, it was a highly important area to defend, not only to prevent the Garleans from reaching Ul'dah, but to protect something else unique to this area: the Ceruleum Fields. Northern Thanalan was home to the only source of ceruleum in Eorzea. Operated by Amagina and Sons Mineral Concern on behalf of Ul'dah, this area was to be protected at all costs. Unfortunately for them, the Ceruleum Fields was located just a few moms from Cutter's Pass, and thus in direct line of sight from the road leading from Mordona. This area was never explorable in 1.0, however you could approach some of the Ceruleum structures. Initially, these were often mistaken as Mako reactors, as there was never much information provided about these structures at the time. They just stood there as mysterious, noisy, and glowy machines with an unknown purpose. When the calamity struck, Thanalan would face multiple threats: the imminent danger of Dalamud debris, as well as the Garlean Empire's plan to invade Eorzea. As Dalamud made its final descent, Garlemald pressed on into Thanalan through Cutter's Pass. In a desperate attempt to defend Ul'dah and the Ceruleum Fields, the Immortal Flames, led by General Rauban Alden, marched on Bluefog to defend what was rightfully theirs. Although outnumbered 3-1, Rauban and his men managed to push Garlemald back into the far reaches of northern Thanalan. In its wake, a war zone ridden with broken magitech, arrows, and weapons. Although pushed back, the Garleans did manage to establish a foothold in Thanalan, as most of Cutter's Pass fell under Garlean control in the form of Castrum Meridianum. The remaining part of Cutter's Pass was renamed Rauban's Push in honor of Rauban's success in pushing the Garleans back. As a result, the Ceruleum Fields needed extra protection. Walls were built around the main processing plant and an aetheryte was raised, effectively making it a fortress. Oddly enough, all the small ceruleum pumps that once used to decorate the Ceruleum Fields are all gone, except for one. This one. When it comes to Bluefog, it too saw major upgrades in the wake of the calamity. It now stands as a small fortress, protecting the only remaining entrance to central Thanalan through Nanawa Mines. You're probably thinking to yourself, but Lukiel, that doesn't make any sense. And well, you're not all wrong. First of all, Sea of Spires is now inaccessible. It's now only named on the map as a mountain range. Everything to the west of Bluefog is now gone, including Hidden Gorge. The Ceruleum Field seems to have grown a bit too, now covering the entire western portion of the map. And yes, if you compare the two maps, it's easy to see that Northern Thanalan has lost a lot of weight in the transition from 1.0 to 2.0. But I actually think most of this can be explained rather easily. As we all know, Northern Thanalan saw a lot of abuse during the calamity. Multiple Dalamud fragments can be found within the zone, as well as debris from the war that was fought there. We already know that Cutter's Pass exists, but that it has been renamed to Rauban's Push and Castrum Meridianum after the war. Sea of Spires is placed almost perfectly if comparing it to the 1.0 version. You have to take the smaller scale into consideration, of course, as all the Realm Reborn maps got compressed slightly. The fact that it is inaccessible isn't that big of a deal when you think back and remember what the 1.0 version had to offer: mainly nothing. The entrance to Nanawa Mines is plausible. It's a mine after all. The mine did already push into Northern Thanalan in 1.0, so having it grow into Bluefog after 5 years sounds reasonable. But then what of Hidden Gorge? Well, although I can't say for certain, it is very possible that Castrum Meridianum encompasses both Cutter's Pass and Hidden Gorge in some way. Hidden Gorge and Cutter's Pass were both placed very close to one another in 1.0, and with Castrum Meridianum being such a massive fortress, with another fortress inside it, the Praetorium, it wouldn't be much of a surprise if that was the case. However, if you're lucky enough to catch Northern Thanalan without the constant fog, you can see mountains on the other side of the Ceruleum Field, and that opens another possibility. Hidden Gorge could still exist in its entirety on the other side, but it's simply inaccessible, much like southern Mordona. It probably just didn't make sense to expand this zone any further. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. And with that, we've reached the end of the episode, my friends. Thank you so much for watching. We're heading into the holidays here, so the show will be slowing down episode production. More on that in the next episode. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe for more. Oh, and comment down below with your thoughts on what happened to Northern Thanalan. I'll be back next week with another episode of Remnants of a Realm. See you then, Eorzeans, and until then, may you ever walk in the light of the crystal. And happy Starlight. Do you say happy Starlight celebration, everyone?